mission trips every year, probably about a half a dozen a year. I had never met Sean, but my wife was helping my daughter fill out or complete her fundraising letter to go to Uganda. She'd already decided to go, and something dropped in her heart, and she felt like that I was supposed to go to Uganda. So she told me the next morning. She came in and sat on the bed when I was waking. She wakes up earlier than me, and she came in and she's like, "Hey, so this is what I feel like the Lord is saying." And I said, "All right, I'll ask him about it." And I felt like, hey, I'm supposed to go. Now, the first thing I did is I went to my daughter, and I said, "Hey, are you cool if your old dad goes on this trip with you?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be awesome." So I didn't know the pastor. I called him up. I said, "Hey, can we do coffee?" He told me later that he thought I was one of those concerned parents that was going to come and like try to find out all the details about the trip. But when I got there, I just said, "Hey, I'd like to go on this trip if that's a possibility." So he said, "Fill out the app." So I filled it out. I got approved, and I felt like the Lord was saying, let me back up. I think I shared this last time, but I said, "Lord, I didn't plan to go on this trip. You want me to go on this trip? Will you foot the bill?" And I felt like the Lord, he gave me a picture, okay? And I never shared this with anybody, but I'll go ahead and just share it now. Why? Just don't tell anybody else. The picture I got is I saw Jeff writing the check for the whole thing. And I thought, what a good friend. And that picture kept coming to me. Every time I go to the Lord, I'm like, "Lord, I don't have any money. Like, it's coming up." And I'd see him writing the check. I'm like, "All right, Lord, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you." And I never brought it up to him. I never came to him. I never said anything. And one morning, 2 weeks before I left, I was sitting up here and I was like, I need to talk to Jeff about something entirely different. Uganda was not even on my mind. And we went in the back and talked for about 5 minutes. And he's the one that brought it up. "Hey, what's going on with Uganda?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going." And he's like, "Well, why don't you share with everybody about it?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "How much do you want the church to help you go on the trip? Like how much?" And the story about the guy, who hit the stick on the ground in the Bible and didn't hit it enough, that came to my mind. I was like, I want it all. And he goes, "Okay, well, whatever the church doesn't give, we'll cover the rest." Well, I don't know if you guys know this or if I can share the amount that was raised. Is that cool? So I needed $3,400, and in that Sunday we raised over 10 grand for my trip. So yes, praise God, and thank you guys. That was a big reason why I wanted to get up here and talk about Uganda, because everything that happened, you guys invested in, happened, and it was a pretty glorious trip. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. So went on the trip. Okay, this was a tough trip. Okay, there was over 80 hours of travel. Okay, I was exhausted. Between flights and commutes while we were there. When we landed, we had about a 2-hour trip to, I don't even remember the names of the cities, but it was 2 hours from the airport. And I don't know what's up with Uganda, but they love speed bumps. There were speed bumps every 2 minutes on every road. So can you imagine driving 8 hours and speed bumps for 8 hours? Like, I hate one speed bump. These are legit speed bumps. And they're everywhere on every highway. So what would take you normally 3 or 4 hours to get there, it just double that. And so you know how it is. You're speeding up, and you're like you get cruising, and you're slowing down, and it just And if you are nauseous or you don't do well in a car, it's not great. And so these were the sufferings that we went through when we were there. But in spite of all of that, some amazing things happened, and I didn't know what to expect. The people at Waymaker did not know me. They knew my daughter, and they were very gracious. It was a small group of us. There was only 7 of us, 3 guys and 4 girls. And I got to bunk with one of the guys, and he's 20 years old. We were bunk mates, and we had a blast. His name is Andreas, and he's just a really cool dude, loves the Lord. And we got to connect, and it was so good. I know it was God ordained. And so we're on the trip, and when we get there, I find out that our focus is going to be medical missions. Like, we're there to treat people who are hurting, who have disease, who need treatment, who need medicine. And so when we got there, we stayed in these little huts, and I had a bunch of pictures. I don't know if we're going to be able to get them up. If not, no big deal. But we stayed in these huts, and there was sort of a big building where basically it was a little hospital right there on the grounds. And the name of this ministry is Sports Outreach. Sports Outreach is actually located here in Lynchburg, their headquarters. And so I've never done anything with them, but the guy who leads that, his name is Robert, and he has been in, he basically started Sports Outreach, and their focus is soccer and chess. And one of the world champions of chess came through his ministry. And so they actually created a huge movie. He's been in the movies, so it's a pretty big deal. He's pretty well known internationally, and super humble guy, great guy. So when we got there, they had this medical missions, and I was like, Lord, whatever you want to do, use me however you want. And I remember when we walked in, it was my job, and I got to work with Kayla. We basically were in the hallways just greeting people and just connecting with people. That's it. And most of them did not speak English, so some of the younger girls that came in spoke English. And so, I'm the biggest guy in the room and the whitest guy in the room. And so I'm making people laugh, and we're having a good time, and I'm kind of helping make connections, and Kayla's starting to connect with some of the girls, and the Lord starts speaking to me. And there was this one guy in particular who came up. He was an older guy, and instantly the Lord told me he doesn't know me. And so I started sharing the gospel with him, and he was super resistant, did not want to hear anything I had to say. And so I just remember the Lord saying, I want this guy. I want him to know me. And so I went and found the pastor who I had not met yet. His name is Simon Peter. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his birth name, but his name is Simon Peter. And so I'm like, wow, Simon Peter. And so I'm getting to know him, and I'm saying, hey, this is what the Lord is saying. Do you know this guy? And all of a sudden he's like, hey, do you want to speak? And I'm like, sure. So there was probably maybe 150 people still waiting to come in. So he takes me out. I'm speaking, and I'm just sharing my heart, a little bit of my testimony. I said, hey, I would really love to pray with any of you who want to connect with the Lord. So they set up basically an inner healing prayer area out in the lawn, and we prayed for 4 or 5 hours with people. And I don't remember how many people accepted Jesus, but it was a lot. A lot of people rededicated their lives to the Lord. I will say, I heard the Lord's voice so clearly in Uganda. It was incredible, like probably the clearest I've ever heard it. And the Lord was just ministering through me, and it was just so cool. I mean, the joy of the Lord just was coming all over me. And just this joy for ministry began to come back to my heart. And as we were ministering, it was definitely one of the most epic days of my life, that particular day. And wouldn't you know it, where there are mountaintops, there's valleys. So as soon as the day was over, we went to bed. Well, guess what? The electricity went out. Well, I'm on a CPAP. I'm on a CPAP, and for those of you who don't know, I'm also insulin dependent, so I'm on insulin. And so sometimes I have up and downs throughout the day, trying to keep that, consistent. And when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep, and it was, you guys know it's been pretty muggy out, right? It was about like that. And so there was no AC the whole trip. There was no AC the whole trip, right? More suffering. And I remember just laying in bed, just trying not to move so that I wouldn't sweat too much. And there's mosquito nets, because there's mosquitoes that can give you malaria. So there's a lot of things going on that I'm not used to. And I got about 2 hours of sleep that night. Are there pictures? Come on. You guys aren't even listening to me anymore. All right, so where are we at? This is like a long video. Did I share the right one? Can you go back to, did you guys already see the airplane and stuff? Oh, it's on a loop. Okay, cool. All right, that's my daughter, Kayla. She's eating a mango. And you can go to the next photo. Is it timed? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So we ended up buying Bibles. Typically, it's really hard to find Bibles in their language. And we were able to buy, I think we bought 30 Bibles. And we pooled all of our personal money together. Okay, this is the main story of the guy I want to talk about. This guy's actually name is Peter, too. And this was at the second medical clinic. That morning when I woke up, the Lord said, I'm going to do something amazing today. And so we had set up another prayer room at the second medical clinic for me to lead. And when Peter came in, people walk for miles and miles and miles to get to where we're going. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. The name of that little village was called Paguini. And I remember that because it sounded Italian. And I like Italian food. And so we're in Paguini, and Peter comes up, and we're praying with him, and everybody has their eyes closed, and I start getting this download from Jesus. And it's a narrative. It's a movie. And this guy doesn't speak English, but I remember as he's translating, he looks up at me and does this, and tears start flowing out of his eyes. And he thought, I don't know what he thought, but he knew that whatever I was saying, it was God. Anyway, long story short, this guy gives his life to the Lord. Polygamy is a huge issue in Uganda, okay? It's part of their culture. And he had 2 wives, and one of the big reasons why he didn't want to give his life to the Lord is because he had 2 wives. And I said, you say yes to Jesus, and he'll figure all that stuff out. So he gives his life to the Lord, and when he's done, did you guys see that black hat he had? Okay, that was my hat. I had just gotten a brand new hat, and that was the only hat I took with me on the trip, and he asked me if he could have my hat. I said, yeah, you can have my hat. So you would have thought I'd given him $1 million, because this guy lit up. He went out and started telling everybody about his experience, and the line for prayer was so long. The pastor had to come up to me at like 6:30 p.m. and say, hey, are you guys almost done? Like, we were just going and going and going. Anyway, I led 13 people to the Lord that trip, total, between 3 medical clinics. We had a ton of people rededicate their life to the Lord. We also went on a safari. Okay, I'd never been on a safari before. And something very special happened on that safari. So it is very rare to see a leopard in Uganda. Very rare. In fact, Robert, who's from Uganda, had never seen a leopard. And we saw one. And I remember I was praying because we had seen every animal you could see except for lions. And, that's their big goal. That's their objective on the trip, is we want everybody to see lions so they have a great time. But there was no guarantee. And I remember just saying, Lord, please, we want to see lions. And it was funny because after we saw lions, because we saw them, after we saw them, everybody else was saying, yeah, we were praying, Lord, please, we want to see lions. Well, what was cool, as soon as I said that prayer, we saw the leopard. And I have a video of the leopard up here. It's like an 11-second video. Did you guys already see it? Dude, man, you guys are good. You guys are ahead of it. Oh, all right, that story's done. All right, next thing. So I see that picture of me. So here's the other cool part. Titus was one of the pastors at the second village, and he asked me to speak that Sunday at their church, which was kind of mind-blowing. He just came up to me and said, hey, I feel like you're the guy that's supposed to speak. So I was able to share, and, I'd spoken like 5 minutes, guys. It was fast. We were out of there. I was hot. I was ready to go. But it was really good, and that's Sean. Sean is the pastor, great guy. We connected. We're actually standing behind the most powerful waterfall in the world, okay? The reason why it's the most powerful waterfall in the world is because it has the most narrow opening, and more volume of water hits that than any other area in the world. Like, you have Niagara, right? It's bigger than this, but there's more force on that fall than anything else in the world. And we stood there, and we were soaked because the mist from all the water comes up and hits you. And it was a lot of fun. It was really cool, beautiful. That is the area where, that was the second medical missions. That's where we set up to pray. That desk behind us is the administrator of the school. I got to pray for him. He was the last person I got to pray for. There's a lot of abuse, marital abuse in Uganda. One of the other problems, one of the other dysfunctions in Uganda is that they are on a dowry system. So if you want to get married, you have to go ask the parents, how much do you want, basically? How much do I have to pay you to get your daughter to be my wife? And so what that does is it creates all this dysfunction, and men start thinking about their wives as property. And so when that happens, of course, there's no unconditional love, and now you have, is more prevalent for abuse and wrong thinking and things like that. And so that's a big issue in Uganda. Well, it's sort of prevalent through every relationship there, not just people that, don't know the Lord. And so I was able to minister to the headmaster, because his wife had come for prayer and basically, had said, hey, we're struggling. And so I was able to pray for him, and it was pretty powerful moment. The Lord gave me basically a narrative showing him how the Lord loves him. That's me being really adventurous. I killed that bull, and then I skinned it right there. And it was delicious meat. And so we saw, that's the whole team, and that's Robert in the cool Uganda shirt. And that's our team again. I think we're in the airport. So Titus was the pastor at the second in Piguini. The Lord connected me. The pastors' hearts that I connected with, who are my translators, were amazing. That's me too. Guys, we had long flights. Okay, I wanted you guys to see that, because that's behind the scenes. I bought some apparatuses on Amazon to help me stick to the chair, and that was doing it. And I slept. It was awesome. And so Titus, great heart, great friend. I have a picture up there. I don't know if you guys already saw the picture of me with the guy in the glass of the van. I don't know if you guys saw that yet, but that was Titus. And Titus, he's the one that asked me to speak. We spent a lot of time together leading people to the Lord and just, ministering to people and praying with people. And I know, I believe in my heart that I'm going to be going back to Uganda. I know the Lord connected my heart to what's going on there. In fact, the Lord spoke to me while I was in Uganda about Uganda. And I'm going to make a t-shirt, and it's going to be Uganda, Uganda. I don't know why they don't have that shirt yet, but I think that'd be a cool shirt. Anybody get that? Okay. All right. Well, I thought everybody was going to laugh, but that's cool. All right. It's just me. I would have bought that t-shirt if it had been there. And so, yeah, that's the first medical clinic that we were at, and those huts that you saw, that was where we stayed, and that's me looking out of my window and taking a photo. And let's see, what else happened, guys? I just gave you all the big news. You guys have any questions?
Did you show the elephant?
Yes, thank you. So the first thing we saw was elephants. I think. No, we saw giraffes first. Then we saw elephants with a baby elephant. They were super close to us, like 20 feet. And the truck that we ride in, I don't know if you guys saw the truck. It's just wide open. Lions can just jump in there and eat you. It's cool. And so we were just chilling and riding around, and we stayed in this beautiful place right on the Nile River. Okay, the Nile River runs through Uganda. I'd never seen the Nile River, and I'm sure that many of you haven't. But what do you think of when you hear the Nile River, right? You hear Egypt and all that stuff. The Nile River is massively wide and super powerful. It is. I didn't picture it that way. There's different areas in different countries where the Nile River will slow up and where it's more rapids in other areas. But the Nile River is still packed with crocodile and hippos. Absolutely packed. So you don't want to swim in the Nile River. There are certain areas in certain countries where they're less likely to be, but there's no guarantee. So yeah, we didn't swim in it. But we stayed in this beautiful area right on the Nile River, overlooking the Nile. We stayed at this hotel. It was the very last night of the trip, and we had air conditioning. So I kind of lied earlier. But yeah, we stayed in this hotel. Right at the end, right when the safari began to happen that day, I started not feeling well, and I got super sick, and I brought that back to the U.S. But I went directly and got antibiotics, and so I don't think anybody else got it. But it was probably one of the worst sicknesses I've ever had. That little girl, I know this is a video, but maybe it's not showing, but that little girl got really scared of me, and she started running with her little water container. And there's a video of her crying, running from me to her mother. So, also, there's a lot of lizards in Uganda. Like lizards everywhere, even in the bathrooms, guys, okay? And a lot of their bathrooms, like in the village we went to, are just basically center block little rooms that you go into, and there's no toilets in there, okay? They basically have ledge walls all above the headers on the walls, and there's tons of lizards running around on top of that. So me and Andreas, I was like, dude, let's go catch some lizards. So we went into the bathrooms, and I got my camera. I'm up looking at all the lizards, and Andreas scares me. He grabs me and yells, and I freaked out. I have a video of that too, actually, and we have the whole thing, and then I'm chasing him down and calling him names. That young man gave his life to the Lord. So let me share a couple stories about some of the encounters that I had with prayer. That's Titus. So he's an awesome dude, and I love that guy. That's me, not fully awake yet. So when we were at the medical missions and we were praying with folks, this was after Peter went and basically shared his testimony, and everybody came flooding for prayer. So there was a whole family that came. It was a husband and wife and their 2 kids, and they sit down, and the husband was actually a teacher at the school there. And he basically was like, we all want to give our life to Jesus. And I was like, awesome, you know? But I could tell that the wife was not having it. She was not on board with this decision. And so through prayer, we talked through the whole thing. I asked the kids, hey, do you understand what's going on? Do you understand what it means to give your life to Christ? And all that was translated, and they said, yes, we do. And I said, do you want to give your life to the Lord? After I had had the conversation with both their parents, the mother said she wasn't ready. And I said, do you understand what's going on with your parents? Do you want to give your life to the Lord? They both said, yes, we do. So they gave their life to the Lord. And one of the reasons why, the main reason why, there was 2 women that struggled to give their life to the Lord is because of alcohol. So alcoholism is a huge deal in Uganda. And a lot of the people in the villages will make homemade alcohol and then sell it for income. And this lady in that family, they had already bought all the materials to make alcohol, which was going to be income for them, and she did not want to give that up. And that's why she didn't want to give her life to the Lord. And so we talked through that, but she just wasn't ready. And so the other lady who came in, there was another woman. She was a little bit older. She was a widow. Her husband had died, and she had, I think, 2 or 3 sons who were all alcoholics. And she basically was working the farm alone. And that's how they live. They farm, they garden, that's their life. If you don't farm, you don't eat. And so she was working super hard, and she had injured her leg and was limping really bad, and it was just basically from working super hard. And so she came for prayer, and before I prayed for her for healing, I asked her, do you know the Lord? And she said, no, I don't. And I said, well, would you like to give your life to Christ? And she basically said, I can't because I sell alcohol. And she didn't want to give that up. And she had just made a brand new batch of alcohol, and she said, if I say yes to Jesus, will he make me throw it out? And I said, I don't know the answer to that question. I said, but I know that if you say yes to Jesus, then he'll speak to you and he'll tell you what to do. And we talked for about 20 minutes. You could see the wrestling in her soul about giving her life over to the Lord. and I began to share some testimonies of my own life in areas where I had held back from the Lord and how it affected my life. And she gave her life to the Lord. It was a pretty powerful moment. She surrendered her life to Christ, and I know that she was touched by the Lord. It was pretty amazing. That's us doing push-ups. That was after I had just gotten 2 hours of sleep. So I'm doing girl push-ups there. Don't make fun of me. I also drink decaf coffee. And I don't have any tattoos. So, is that it? Is that all the pics? Oh, they're going to restart. Okay. Well, I don't want to end my sermon on that last thing I just said. So, yes, I want to say thank you guys. You guys invested in me. You invested in what the Lord was doing in Uganda. The Lord, I think I shared with you that the Lord has put it on my heart to do a lot of traveling internationally, and I believe that's what the Lord has called me to. And I'm going to Sri Lanka in September with this same pastor, Sean. He invited me to come and go, and I prayed about it, and so I'm going to be going on there. It's a team of 8 of us. The trip that's coming up is going to be very gospel-centered, more gospel-centered than this trip. We're going to be doing a lot of door-to-door evangelism. And the people, so Sri Lanka is a small island off of India, and I've been to India. I went maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, and I was there for a couple of weeks and had an amazing time, fell in love with the people there. But Sri Lanka is its own little country. It's very similar in terms of culture and beliefs and religion and all that. The people in India believe, right, like they believe in all gods, okay? One of the advantages of that is they're open to Jesus because they're open to all gods. They believe in all gods. So once they have an encounter with the Lord and they know that he's the real God, it changes. You know, it's a doorway to share Christ. And so I'm really believing for a lot of souls. I'm really believing that we're going to touch a lot of people, and I'm really excited about it because that's kind of my jam. It's just going up and talking to strangers and tell them about the Lord. And so I'm really believing that God's going to do something amazing there. And it's in my heart that I go back to India next year. And I believe the Lord had started talking to me about India. And then my Indian pastor friend reached out to me and said, hey, I had a dream that you're coming to India next year. And I was like, okay, well, that's confirmation. And so pretty sure I'm going. And I don't know who's going with me, but maybe it could be you. And so, yeah, my ask of you is just to be in prayer for me as I kind of step into this new season. Some of you may not know that the Lord has called me to run a business the last, I think it's been 9 years, 8 or 9 years, and the Lord brought my wife. We're almost empty nesters, as I had mentioned, and the Lord has put it on my wife's heart to lead the company, and so she's been stepping in and doing an amazing job and crushing it. And so she's my boss now, and still, yes. She's always trying to tell me what to do. She's like a month older, and she holds that over my head. But I don't know if any of you work with your spouse full time. If you do, we can talk later, but it's super challenging. And we went through a really tough season when we first started trying to figure out what that new rhythm looks like. We have to be like, hey, we can't talk about work right now because it's not a work day. We were doing that on the way here to church. And so you have to be really careful. But we found a great rhythm. Well, we found a lot of health. We're doing really good. And I see that the Lord is just creating an opportunity for me to disconnect and go do the things he's called me to do. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for, I got to share one more story. I just saw those mangoes. So they call it mango hunting, and they have mango trees everywhere we were. There was about 10 different mango trees, and most of the good mangoes had been picked. So the ones that were still really good were super high up. So we spent one afternoon mango hunting, and we were throwing old mangoes at new mangoes to knock them off the tree, and that's how we got all those mangoes. It was so much fun. We had a blast. And you guys saw the one picture of me eating a mango? It was so good. You could tell, right? I was devouring it. I forgot there was a seed in it. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me and All People's Church. And as we move forward in international missions, I'm really believing in some amazing things. So thank you guys for listening to that story. All right. I'll close. Lord, thank you so much for what you're doing. Father, thank you for adventure with you, God. I pray that hearts would open up to adventure with you. Lord, I know that you give us the desires of your heart, and many are called to great adventure, and yet we allow our own fears and worries to keep us back from stepping out. Lord, I pray that you would put it on our hearts, put a desire in our hearts, Father, to want to hear your voice and know your voice, and to walk in relationship with you so that we can so that you can live your life through our life, God. And so we just thank you, Father, for your presence, for testimony, God, to the testimonies that were shared earlier. We know that you are a good God, and you're a God who still does miracles, and you still heal. And Lord, I just thank you, Father, that you paid our ransom. Lord, that this life is short, and there's so much that you want to do in and through us so that the world will know who you are. And I just pray, Father, that you would put a burning in our hearts to walk in a way that people could see you and know you. Give us perspective, Lord, that we would know that this life is not about all the things that we worry about, but it's really about what you're doing, and we want to be a part of that. And so just pray all this in Christ's name. Amen.